it's Wicked again, and we are here for another art tutorial lesson. So we are going to start learning how to do the basics of coloring with colored pencils. So the first thing we're going to do is shade a solid object, and then try to do a glass shading. We're going to change up some stuff on how we do the shadows, but for the most part, we're going to do both. Okay. So all you'll need is a pencil. It doesn't really matter which one. It can be a regular one, mechanical one. Won't really need an eraser today, but you're going to need a blue, kind of like a light blue, I guess, or sky blue, or regular blue. It'll work. A violet or a purple. Okay, that's going to be for our solid object. And for our glass object, you are going to need a red and a black. Alright, so let's go ahead and start with the blue solid object. First thing you want to do is we're going to come down here and we're going to sketch ourselves a circle. Now I'm going to lightly sketch this, so you should be able to see an impression of it, but it's not what's important. You're just going to come in here and get yourself a nice, very light drawn circle, just so you can see where your boundaries are. Okay. So once we have our circle set up, we can do like we did before. We can add a small tiny shadow. Again, it's okay if you can't really see it, just because we're going to color it in anyway. So once we have ourselves a nice little shadow established, we can go ahead, and our light source is going to come in from this way, so we can go ahead and just start to lightly use our blue colored pencil and start filling that in. If you notice, I am not putting very much pressure on there. I am just lightly filling in the circle. Now, the thing with colored pencils, it takes time to make it even look remotely solid, but you can use the same method with some markers, or you could use paint in the same way. It'll be a little bit more solid. If you notice up here in this area, I'm going to leave a little bit of it white just for now, and I'm going to finish filling in the rest of this. Okay, so just like with our shading that we did in pencil, we're going to do the same thing that we did before. We're going to start with a dark tone and then build ourselves up. So I'm going to go ahead and fill in the shadow, the light passing of this blue. Okay, so you should have a lightly filled in circle. Now we're going to come and start building in our shadows. So the first thing we want to do is, we don't really want to use black on a solid object. We want to actually kind of blend two colors. So right now we're going to keep with the blue. I'm going to go ahead and go on the bottom side of this, and then darken that up and run to the back side and do the same thing. So as I work my way out, you want to kind of loosen up how much pressure you're putting on the paper. That way you have that easy transition, from dark to light. And I'm just going to work my way out towards that circle, getting lighter and lighter as I go. I'm going to go ahead and lightly fill in that white area, but everything else around it will get a little bit darker. Okay, so you're really just kind of going over it and increasing that shadow. Okay, now down here at the bottom, we're going to kind of do the same. Have a little bit darker in this area, and then get lighter as we go out towards the edges of the shadow. Okay, now this is where we want, instead of picking black, we want to take our violet or our purple. Okay, so we want to kind of blend those two colors together, because we don't want to use a true black as far as a solid object goes. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to start down here at the bottom. Okay, I'm going to take that violet, and I'm going to make that part where it's touching the ground at its darkest, and take it around that back edge, Now you'll notice it's going to start turning it purple, and that's fine. Okay, we're just using this to be a base that we will go back over with the blue. So I'm going to start working my way over that blue and just darkening it up. And again, as I get higher towards my little light shadowed area, I'm going to lightly use that purple to color it in. Down here at the bottom, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to work my way out. Okay, then we're just going to switch back to our blue. I'm going to put more pressure, and I'm going to go over that purple. Okay, so this time I'm really pressing down hard in these back regions back here, making it a nice solid color. Going over that purple. And again, I'm going to work my way lightly as I go out. Just keep filling it in. If you notice, I'm trying to make sure I'm filling in most of the white area in here. I'm just really making it solid so there's not so much grainy or fuzziness to it. And just start filling that in. You can put a little bit more over that light area. So that means you don't want to press down hard, but you do kind of want to fill it in a little bit. Make sure the areas around it are getting darker. And just continue to fill in with that blue. So once I have that filled in, I'm going to come down here to the bottom and do the same thing. I'm going to come over it in that blue and just start filling it in lightly on the outside. Alright, now once that's filled in, I'm going to take my purple again. This time I'm going to kind of lightly start going over that region, the entirety. So as you can tell, my strokes are a little bit farther out. So I'm going to go over that again, really work in some more of that color harder down here towards the bottom on the side, and just kind of lightly go over the rest of it. Switch back to your blue one last time. Remember, if at any point you need to stop and pause the video so you can catch up, you can do that. I'm going to come right back over this area one last time. Go over that purple. Trying to make as much as that white dot disappear as I can. So this outside over here, you can kind of darken up a little bit. Now there's a lot more like subtle nuances that go into this that you could really do, but again, this is just a basic beginner's coloring tutorial. So our goal is to essentially make the same shaded spheres that we did in our very first video. Really just blend it out so it looks like it's all in one color. I'm going to come back down here to the bottom with my purple again, and I'm going to go over all of that down here so it looks more like a shadow. Okay, so I'm not pressing down super hard, I'm just kind of filling it in. getting that ground shadow in here where it touches, and working my way back around, and build myself out just a little bit more. Okay. So that's how you shade a solid object. Basic, alright, basic solid object. But now we're going to move on to something that's a little bit more challenging, which is with the glass. So again, we're going to need our red and our black. Alright. And we're going to need our pencil. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to start out with a circle. So I'm going to lightly sketch me a circle in here. Okay, so I'm just going to fill that in. Since it's going to be glass, we're going to be kind of stretching our reflective shadow out. So I'm just going to make kind of like these two large arching shapes that come out. Okay, I'm not going to fill in the whole thing, but we're going to leave it like that. Okay. So now, once that we have that, we want to be very careful with this black. Okay. So we are going to very, very lightly trace the outline. So I'm barely putting any pressure, and I'm tracing the outline of my circle up to about right here, and I'm going to stop. I'm going to come back down to the bottom area, do the same thing. I'm going to very lightly trace my circle shape, color that in black. Okay, so whereas before I was pressing down really hard, and see, this is why I like doing this, we can learn from our mistakes. We want to do it, start off lightly this time. Same thing down here with our shadow. I'm going to very lightly do the outline of it and work that in that way. Okay, so let's switch to our red for a minute. We're going to put some reflections on our little sphere here so that it looks like it's glass. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to draw me a triangular shape. Now you can make your reflections look like however, but this is just how I'm doing this one. Okay, so I'm going to thicken this edge up and work my way out. Alright, now I'm going to come and draw me a square shape, just like this, and then thicken up this edge some to give it some more separation. Then down here towards the bottom, because our light is reflecting through this glass object, we're going to put another slight arch right here as a cutoff for a red, and I'm just going to turn it all the way to the side. Okay, now here's the part where we're going to start filling in. So just like we did with our sphere, I'm going to lightly fill this in. Since it's glass, we're not going to get too dark with it, but for now we're going to start off light. Okay, so just lightly put pressure, fill in that sphere. Okay, just fill it all the way around. Color that in. Just keep going with it. And it's very helpful if you look at glass and study it more. You'll be able to really start seeing how the colors and things bend inside of there. But again, it's just a basic tutorial, so you can do the basics of it. And down here where this white is, it would have the same kind of reflective. So I'm going to make like an arching shape right here, and then I'm going to lightly fill in around it. And since our light is bending differently, it's kind of stretched out down here with the shadow. It's not going to be a perfect closed circle. Okay, so that is the base starting point. So now we want to go around to our black edges, and we want to darken those up over the black. So I'm going to press down hard in those areas and go over that black, and it will darken it up. Okay, so just go around that black edge you made and just darken those areas up, and it will blend in with the black there. I'm going to do the same thing down here at the bottom. Okay. Now, just like with our sphere, I'm going to start darkening this up. Okay, so my light's hitting from back and behind, so I'm going to go ahead and start filling this in. So go ahead and start darkening this upper area. And just fill that in and work your way out towards the middle, just like we did over here with the dark shadow, working our way out. We're going to do the same thing. So we're going to start a little bit of a darker tone, kind of blending out from our darkest edge and getting lighter as we work our way in. So as I work my way towards the bottom, I'm going to pick up some of that pencil pressure. And just really try to fill in those white areas. I'm going to darken up this side over here to kind of blend off what we have. Reach that over here. So as you can see, I'm just kind of going back over it multiple times until it darkens and gets solid. Okay. So we want a nice solid color shape. Again, I'm not pressing harder, I'm just going over this area one more time. Okay, I'm going to come down here to this area, do the same thing. I'm going to blend it out from that darkness. And then lighten up as I come towards the center. Do that on both sides. Actually, let's hit up this bottom line a little bit more. Alright, now I'm going to, almost like a hatching motion, I'm going to very lightly, and I mean very lightly, put in some line work over my reflections because it won't be perfectly white. Same thing down here towards the bottom and in this middle region down here. Okay. Then I'm just going to start going over these areas, not pressing harder, but just trying to fill it in so there's not too much of those white greeny speckles in there. Maybe fill in that white a little bit more. I'm going to come back and darken this area up. And lightly work my way out. I'm really just taking that time to blend it in as I get closer. Okay, come back up here, let's work that again. I'm going to come close to those dark areas here and then lightly go over these other areas to just really try to fill it in. Come back over to this edge. the same thing. I'm really just working on filling that in over there. Okay. I'm going to go over that white some just to dim it down. It's not too bright, look more natural. Okay. So that is a basic way to look at glass. Again, if you actually take the time to study and look at like glass marbles in the light, it'll help you get it more. So for your homework, what I want you to do is just throughout the week, just try to draw, 3 or, well, considering the time, let's say we'll do like 2 shapes a day that are solid and 2 shapes a day that are glass. Switch your colors up, see how they blend differently, what colors work well together. This is the time to experiment, okay? So this is the time to experiment. So go ahead and go in there and start knocking out more, and feel free to post your results to my Twitter handle at WickedArt5, and I would be glad to comment on them. Other than that, I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed it, and until I see you in the next one, just keep on sketching. All right.